Hello there, loved one by God. Welcome again to this new vlog within the series of the chronology, biblically, according to scripture, from Adam to the return of Jesus Christ. God's splendid time fabric, the way God has woven time in a structured way. We will continue with the slides immediately, and we were at this point in time. So we already went through this. This is the year from Adam in which Solomon starts building the temple. We will continue. In this very year from Adam, exactly this year from Adam, the construction of temple and palace was finished. And of course, like I said in the beginning, one of the big pictures, remember that clock exactly at half of the time, the day of the human, so to speak. And that this was the moment the Jerusalem was ready for kingship and priesthood. So let's read 1 Kings 6 verse 37 to 38. In the 4th year, the foundation was laid for the house of Yahweh in the month of Siv. In the 11th year, in the month of Build, it is the 8th month, he finished the house in all its details and according to all its specifications. So he had been building it for 7 years. 4 to 11 is 7 years. Okay. Next one. 1 Kings 7 verse 1. As for his own house, the palace, Solomon built it in 13 years. And he finished his entire house. So 7 plus 13 is 20. And just to verify, 1 Kings 9 verse 10, it came to be at the end of 20 years when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of Yahweh and the house of the king. Okay, that is clear, right? Everything is fitting perfectly. Yes? We continue. This is an important year because immediately after having finished the construction, God is going to visit Solomon the second time, and that's going to be very important. What God said at that time. Let's read. God spoke to Solomon. 2 Chronicles 7 verse 11 to 12. Thus Solomon finished the house of Yahweh and the house of the king, and he prospered in everything that had come in Solomon's heart to accomplish in the house of Yahweh and in his own house. Then Yahweh appeared to Solomon in the night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place as mine, as a house of sacrifice. Like I said, this was the second time that God appeared to Solomon. The first time was, of course, when in the beginning of his reign, when he asked God for wisdom. Remember? Okay, so let's continue. What does God say? First, he speaks to Solomon in the singular. 2 Chronicles 7 verse 17-18. As for you, singular, if you would walk before me, says God, just as your father David walked, by doing according to all that I have instructed you, and if you should keep my statutes and my ordinances, then, conditional, then I will confirm the throne of your kingship, just as I contracted with your father David, saying, there shall not be cut off a man of yours from ruling over Israel. So you see, it is made conditional. That is almost everything the way God is acting with Israel. As you already know, I've explained it earlier, especially in the two evangels. Remember, one of the most important elements of God's acting towards Israel is some extent of conditionality. Okay, we continue with God to Solomon, now in the plural. Second, we continue 2 Chronicles 7 verse 19-21. But if you yourselves should turn away and forsake my statutes and my instructions that I have set before you, so that you go and serve other Elohim and bow down to them, then I will pluck them up off my ground that I have given to them, and I shall fling away from my face this house, the temple, that I have sanctified for my name, and I shall make it a proverb and a byword among all the peoples. This house, it shall become rubbish heaps. Everyone passing by it shall be appalled. When he asked, on what grounds did Yahweh thus to this land and to this house? So it sounds quite terrifying. So the question is, what did Solomon do? Of course, he does not obey. Everything from an absolute point of view, everything according to God's plan. So let's read. In 3017, 17 years after the temple was finished, Solomon died. And that's exactly 40 years, because 3 years before he started building the temple and the palace, remember? And then 20 years of the building of the temple and the palace. 3 plus 20 is 23. And then after 3000, he still reigned 17 years. 23 plus 17 is 40. He does not obey. 1 Kings 11, let's read. It came to be at the time of Solomon's old age that his wives turned his heart aside after other Elohim, and he was not as wholehearted with Yahweh, his Elohim, as his father David had been in his heart. Solomon went after Ashtoreth, Elohim of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abominations of the Ammonites. Thus Solomon did what was evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and did not fully follow after Yahweh like his father David. We continue. Verse 7. Then Solomon built a high place for Kimosh, the abomination of Moab, on the mountain adjoining Jerusalem, and for Moloch, the abomination of the sons of Ammon. Thus he did for all his foreign wives, who were fuming incense and sacrificing to their Elohim. So Yahweh showed himself angered with Solomon, because he had turned aside his heart from Yahweh Elohim of Israel, who had appeared twice to him. That's a disappointment, in relative sense, of course. Let's continue. Verse 11. Hence, Yahweh said to Solomon, because this has occurred with you, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes that I enjoined on you, I shall tear the kingdom away from your hand, and will give it to your servant. That's Jeroboam. However, I shall not do it in your days on account of your father David. I shall tear it away from the hand of your son Rehoboam. But I shall not tear away the entire kingdom. I shall give one tribe to your son on account of David my servant, and on account of Jerusalem that I have chosen. Is that not wonderful? Because of course, God had planned the whole thing all along. It's wow. This is a journey, huh? Let's continue. Solomon thus reigns 40 years and dies. 2 Chronicles 9 verse 30-31. Solomon reigned 40 years over all Israel and in Jerusalem. Then Solomon lay down with his fathers, and they entombed him in the city of David his father. His son Rehoboam reigned in his stead. So Solomon thus reigned from 2977 from Adam to 3017 from Adam. Okay. So what happened after Solomon? A lot. Let's see. So after Solomon, we count 413 years in which 20 different kings have reigned over Judah. Let's see what happens. First of all, the tearing of the kingdom into two kingdoms. The northern kingdom named Ephraim or Israel, and the southern kingdom named Judah or Judea. Both kingdoms have 20 consecutive kings. The northern one, there not one God-fearing king was there. So the result was exile to Ashur and the Assyrian how do you say that? The Assyrian Empire was back then the world dominating empire, and the king of Assyria conquered the northern kingdom and brought the whole people into exile to Ashur. That was approximately 700 before Christ, 700 BC. Maybe a little later. I'm not sure because I didn't work with the line of the northern kingdom. Remember, in the assumptions, I went with the southern one, the messianic line, the Judah one, where Jerusalem is the capital. That's the southern one. There were some God-fearing kings, but still the most were not God-fearing. So their result was exile to Babylon later on. So you can read all about it in these two passages. 1 Kings 11 verse 40, 2 Kings 25 verse 13. Quite a long passage, but you can read all about it if you want. And 2 Chronicles 7 to 11 to 2 Chronicles 36 verse 11. So let's take a look at the 20 kings after Solomon. I'm sorry, this is quite small. Let's see if you can see that in the overview. Maybe that is a little better readable. Let's see. How is this one? It's still small, huh? Yeah, it's very small. It's very small. Okay, but the thing is, it's quite detailed also. So let me just talk you through. But I better go to the other one, I guess. I cannot assess which one is better. Let's go with this one. Let's go with this one. Okay, so just to make everything complete, I also added Solomon, but I didn't count him. So he's not one of the 20. So there were 20 kings, you see here, starting with his son Rehoboam, onto Zedekiah. 20 kings. So I just put Solomon here just to come to add the 413 years to 430. I just put 18 here, including the throne change. Again, some little rounding differences. That's why, because it's very detailed. But you can read about each and every king here. Make a picture, make a screenshot, and you can look up all these passages behind these kings. So you can see the names of the kings and the years, the full years, and the years including the throne change, the throne swap if you want, the throne switch. So of course we go with this one because that's the complete one, the complete picture. So we come to 430 years. One thing I want to add, because I wanted to do a double check. So I went to Hezekiah, the 13th king after Solomon. So he reigned 29 full years, including the throne change, 30 years. So his first year, so what I did was I also put here a calculation of the total years since the finishing of the temple. 3,000, you see. So I totaled all these years here. So just that it counts, it kept on counting onto here Ahaz. So he reigned until 3284. You can read it here, right? So 3284 from Adam was the last year of Ahaz, sorry. So the first year of Hezekiah was 3285. That's this one here. You see this one here? That's the first year of Hezekiah. That's the next year, right? So I wanted to check something because in this passage, in these passages, 2 Kings 19:29 and Isaiah 37:30, if you read it carefully, you will notice that the 15th year of Hezekiah was a Sabbath year, and the 16th year from Hezekiah was a Jubilee year. And yes, I calculated it just to be sure, as a sample, you know. So I did it as a little audit. So indeed, when you start here as a first year, and this is the 15th year. Why? Because this is the first year. If this is the first year, adding 14 years, this is the 15th year. You see? 3299, that was a Sabbath year. And the next year indeed was another round year from Adam. 3300 from Adam. So this to me is another little confirmation that the calculation adds up. So again, from the finishing of the temple to the last king after Solomon, before the destruction of Jerusalem, just at the destruction of Jerusalem and the exile to Babylon was 430 years. There's a whole story also that Nebuchadnezzar already begun here at an earlier phase to already take some young people, some bright people from Jerusalem, including Daniel and his 3 friends. What's the name? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they were already in Babylon at that time. But at Zedekiah, then the whole city of Jerusalem was taken and the temple was completely destroyed. The walls of Jerusalem were torn down. We will read about it. But just for you to see, it is 430 years since the finishing of the temple. So, then we will end this vlog for now, because otherwise we will go too long, and then we will continue in the next vlog. Thank you for watching again, and see you next time when it gets even more exciting.